Hello people, I'm Ginny Metheral, I'm a fourth generation witch. I want to talk to you about the rites, the rituals, the celebrations that you can use during this particular upcoming sabbat of Yule, which we know is the Winter Solstice, but is actually the very birth of the sun. Yule is one of the most celebrated festivals throughout the history of mankind. There is some form of festival in the midwinter when the sun is first seen to stand still and then begin its expansion into the world. In Britain at Yule, we get barely 7 hours of daylight. It does feel a bit, and so of course we celebrate this festival with fire, as did our ancestors. They would light a bonfire to encourage the sun to return to this world and bring forth the greenery of spring, and also because this chases away the darkest time of the year. Some of the witches' festivals, such as Samhain, can be a bit, I don't know, they've got a darker angle to them. Yule, like Beltane and the summer solstice, is pure joy. We urge the sun to come back to us by lighting bonfires, decorating our houses with greenery, and feasting. Christmas is one of the main festivals of Christianity because it was massively annexed from our pagan ancestors, because we were all busy dancing around bonfires, feasting, giving presents, having a nice time, drinking wassail. And so the Christians have annexed it and said, oh, well, we're going to have it as the birth of our saviour. If you want to overlord a population of pagans, best way to do that is to incorporate their feasts into your religion. Yule is actually a slightly movable feast because it is the winter solstice. What this means is this is when the sun is directly above the Tropic of Capricorn. And this happens in the UK at 9:19 a.m. This year it happens on the 21st of December, but it can happen any time between the 19th and the 23rd. So it's a bit of a, So you do have to look at your calendar in order to ascertain when it happens. Our ancestors called this a fire festival, and fire festivals are incredibly exciting. Now, we can't necessarily have a bonfire just at any given moment of the day or night, depending on where we live, so why not just light some candles? It is the perfect way to celebrate this fire festival, and you can keep them inside. Obviously, safety first, please, people, but a candle is simply, it's a bit wonky, candle is simply a marvellous way to celebrate Yule. Christmas is such a part of Yule, isn't it? It with the flying reindeer, a magical present giver, spirits walking, animals speaking. It's so intertwined with Yule. We're going to give each other presents, and that is part of a pagan tradition. This is not necessarily a Christian tradition. During the depths of winters, you could really do with a Christmas present of a nice coat. Clothing, as now, is always popular. With the lighting of the fire, they also had the lighting of the Yule log. Now, this is not something we can do anymore. We don't have large open hearths in a lord's hall. It is something from a long time ago and was kept up until really the Victorians invented the closed cooking range. People then used to burn a log for 12 hours, then put it out and burn it for another 12 hours. I don't know how quite they did that. Maybe they stuck one end in the fire. These Yule logs were often made of ash or oak, which are the two sort of big trees of the season. We can't necessarily burn a massive tree in our fireplace. Well, I certainly can't. I don't know about you. You might be able to burn a massive tree in your fireplace. So what we do instead is eat one. And there is nothing better than a Yule log. If you make it yourself, you can imbue it with the magic of the Yule log. It was said that the Yule log should never go out, and quite frankly, if you eat some Yule log, I don't think it will ever go out. So with your Yule log, what else should you eat at midwinter? The traditional fare for the solstice was chestnuts. Chestnuts are considered the food of the gods. They fed whole villages through the dark months as they were a desperately needed source of protein. The remains of chestnuts roasting have been found in Neolithic Britain near many sacred sites, so they were considered a part of some sort of ritual at the winter solstice. We know that the fires were lit in our ancient Neolithic sites because we can see the layer of ash and charcoal that remains in the centre of, say, stone circles. My retreat and I went to a Fernworthy stone circle in Dartmoor to investigate this magic, and I have to say, It was exactly the sort of place that you could see Yule celebrations happening with aplomb. Part of Yule is decorating your house with greenery. This is unutterably pagan in every sense of the word. I mean, bringing in mistletoe, the sacred herbs of the Druids, and kissing underneath it. Blatantly. It's just blatant, isn't it? Often people brought in greenery in order to provide a safe place for the Fae, the spirits of the world who are looking for homes during the winter. The other evergreens that you should bring into your home are, of course, holly, mistletoe, and ivy. Holly is one of those deeply held and loved plants. It is intertwined with our history. It was the original stock fencing for our homesteads. Before the UK had plantations of conifers to be specifically used as Christmas trees, there was a period between the time when Christmas trees became popular and Christmas trees being available, and so people would use the holly bush and chop that down and use it as their Christmas tree. It is said if you have holly in your home will never be struck by lightning. Nowadays we have lightning conductors on our houses, but in days of yore, this was a big deal. It was a natural and terrible disaster. And so to have a holly tree kept your lightning at bay. In olden times, holly was given by overlords to their servants and their staff in order to say to them that we will employ you for the next years. If you didn't receive your holly bough at Winter Solstice, it was a bit of a I've been sacked situation. And in fact, the village where I grew up, they did have this particular tradition still going on. And I do remember one of the old farm workers not receiving his holly bough at Winter Solstice, but he did get it by Christmas Eve, and he was mightily relieved. Mistletoe, of course, the wonderful plant of the Druids, ensures fertility in the coming year. That's why you kiss underneath it. It's part of a fertility ritual. And remember to take a berry each time you kiss and discard the berry by rubbing it on a tree outside so that hopefully it will seed into that tree and more mistletoe will grow. And finally, ivy. This is just simply beautiful. Ivy is one of the few plants that is still green at this time of year. It was a symbol of fidelity, and so to bring it into your house showed that you would have faithfulness and truth throughout the year. I always have ivy in my decorations. It's one of my favourites. I like to have holly, ivy, and mistletoe. I'm not too fussed about the conifer and the other evergreens, but holly, ivy, and mistletoe, very much a part of my decorating scheme. One of my favourite things about Yule is that it marks the start of the Wassailing season. Now, I have spoken about this in a couple of videos previously. Wassailing is when you walk into your orchard and bang awake the spirits. This is in order to ensure that the spirits awake in the orchard and start getting to work for the new year and the new crop. Now, wassailing, it normally happens in an apple orchard, and of course we make delicious cider, and a wassail drink is basically a spiced cider drink which will be used to pour libations over your apple trees. The first thing I'm going to be doing to celebrate Yule is to actually cleanse my home. Before you do any kind of joyful celebration, it's a really sensible idea to make sure there's nothing negative in it. You don't want that infecting your parties or your celebrations in any way. Now, for Yule, you should use rosemary. Rosemary can often flower at Yule, and therefore it is a plant for midwinter. If you don't have rosemary, frankincense is, of course, always appreciated. And if you don't have any of that, quite frankly, some sage will be absolutely fine. Finally, one of the finest ways to celebrate Yule is to sing a carol. Don't think that carols are a Christian invention. A carol is merely a sacred song, and sacred songs were sung during Yule way before Christianity ever annexed carols for their own. The Holly and the Ivy is one such pagan carol that I like. It sounds to me incredibly old-fashioned, that one, and it does have Christian mythology in it. However, I do think a little bit of a carol singing is always good at this time. Yule is so bound up with Christmas. They are practically the same festival, are they not? We eat, we drink, we spend our time with friends, we give each other presents. We have a lot of mythology going on about it. But however you celebrate your solstice, may it be an extremely happy one. Do come and join me on Patreon. For all of those who want to learn further about witchcraft, come and join my coven. Our next coven is happening at the end of December, and we will be looking at New Year's resolutions and how we can make them come true. If you don't want to do that as a Christmas present to me, I would be very grateful if you could just like and subscribe. I will see you in my next video.